In the realm of manga and anime, these three come to mind when the big three is mentioned, but more recently, a more somber and mature big three have emerged. Instead of large high-speed fights and superpowers, this big three focuses on its characters and how they confront themes of trauma, toxic masculinity, and the challenging journey of letting go of rage and bitterness along with trauma. Berserk, Vinland Saga, and Vagabond stand out as pieces of fiction that not only transcend the boundaries of illustration, but also the boundaries we set for ourselves and others. Trauma in all of its forms acts as a central theme in all of these stories. I'm gonna timestamp each section, but overall for this video, I'm gonna stick to discussing overall character arcs instead of specific story events when I can. However, to cover all my bases, I will be discussing the plot of Vinland Saga Season 1 and 2, Berserk's Golden Age and onwards, and the general themes of Vagabond. I highly recommend finishing at least one of these stories in your lifetime. Okay, I know this title, to some of you guys clicking on this, it might seem woke or whatever, but just hear me out. Vinland Saga, authored by Makoto Yukimura, begins with a focus on not only being a revenge-driven story, but rather one of healing and forgiveness. Even from the beginning scenes of the story, pacifism and revenge are questioned. When Thorfinn talks to his dad about wanting a sword to cut down his enemies, his father shuts him down, stating that Thorfinn has no enemies and that no one in this world deserves to get hurt.
お前に敵などいない。誰にも。
However, after witnessing his father's murder at the hands of mercenaries, Thorfinn is consumed by a desire for vengeance. We've all seen this trope done over and over from Lion King to Dune. However, what makes Vinland Saga special is that it doesn't make this lust for vengeance the central point of the story. In reality, it actually turns the trope on its head as it progresses. The plot critiques the traditional masculine warrior archetype by revealing the emptiness, bitterness, and destruction left behind by having such an existence. Thorfinn's eventual evolution towards peace and healing challenges the notion that strength and aggression are the only ways of defining masculinity. In the first arcs of the story, Thorfinn goes through the stages of grieving his father in ultra-violent, entertaining fashion. I mean, who doesn't love a good revenge story with action scenes? I mean, shit, I was eating it up. Thorfinn stays employed by his father's murderer, sticking to an imaginary code of honor and stubbornly committing to trying to best him in duels instead of just slitting his throat in his sleep. Subsequently, Thorfinn patiently trains to finally achieve his revenge while pillaging and killing everything in his way with the Viking band. Then season 1 ends with a bombshell. The conflict you thought would last for the entire saga of Vinland Saga becomes unachievable. So what does Thorfinn do? What's his purpose now that his father's killer is finally dead? Thorfinn rots. Thorfinn becomes a slave and is racked with emptiness and nightmares from his life with Askeladd. After all the villages raided and burned to the ground and the fathers and mothers he killed and allowed to be assaulted, he has nothing to show for it. He's forced to confront his night terrors in person when Thorfinn realizes his fellow slave Einar was a victim of the conquest and violence of the people that Thorfinn fought for, and Einar proceeds to try to kill Thorfinn. Thorfinn chased after one man for years over the murder of his father, yet he was complicit in hundreds of murders, razing of villages, and mass. But he didn't care until he didn't get what he wanted. I doubt 90% of the people watching this video, including me, have ever experienced even like half of that plot line, but I think the general lessons and sentiments that are prevalent in the plot of Vinland Saga speak to a lot of men. Feelings of anger, helplessness, the need to protect and fight for our loved ones. However, not everyone manages to heal and or forgive. Watching Thorfinn kill others stylistically in the pursuit of avenging his father is fun and cathartic, but the experience of watching him become depressed and riddled with guilt over the span of season 2 isn't. I mean, if you go online, there's even some people complaining about the lack of action in season 2 or in the manga. Past that point, Thorfinn actually puts in the work to heal himself. Additionally, the very feminine male character Canute acts as the opposite. A feminine, easygoing, kind prince gets turned into a cold-hearted warrior with short hair and a more masculine face. However, their paths diverge very differently and parallel to what many of us may consider masculine, or too forgiving. Kind of similar to Guts and Griffith's portrayal in Berserk, created by Kentaro Miura, rest in peace, explores trauma through the character of Guts, who undergoes relentless suffering and betrayal for basically his whole life. Born from a hanging victim and sold as a slave by his adopted father, Guts' traumatic past is one that we see through flashbacks in different arcs. On the surface, Guts is a masculine, strong, handsome man who doesn't talk about his feelings and is committed to his mission of killing Griffith and protecting Casca, and even before the eclipse, just killing in general. And this is exactly what draws a lot of young men into experiencing the story of Berserk. They see a masculine man killing demons with graphic scenes and shock value moments, but the plot is deeper than those things, especially after the Golden Age arc, which no one seems to read past the Golden Age arc, but that's a different. Under Guts' exterior is a man that finally learns to love and to trust, to then have it ripped from him in an unspeakable way. Although he has been rightfully criticized by the prevalence of essay in the story, Miura does a great depiction of Guts' struggle with his inner demons and his trauma, as well as his eventual path towards healing and understanding. Also, while I'm editing this, I realized that I forgot to talk about Griffith's scene where he bathes himself and self-harms and admits to Casca that he's selling his body in order to feel better about all the lives that were lost in pursuit of his dream. I think that it added another dimension to Griffith's motivation and his character in general, and that it was handled very well for such a serious topic that could have just been played as a joke or brushed aside of Griffith, selling himself. It really highlights the complexity of trauma and its lingering effects on the human psyche and relationships. Specifically, Guts and Casca's relationship throughout the story show that they love each other despite the fact that seeing each other triggers awful memories. I've had discussions with people who have had qualms with Casca being an unspeaking toddler for most of the story, especially when so many female characters in Ana manga are horribly portrayed, but I think if anything, their relationship acts as one of the main pillars of Berserk. Miura could have written out Casca to just stay with Rickard and his sister all alone and have the entire story be an edgy revenge fest where Guts does badass shit. But he didn't. Despite both of them being traumatized and hunted by demons, Guts protects her and does his best to try and bring her back and saves her from danger every single time. Besides never being shown love and being betrayed by almost every single person he's met, he sticks by Casca's side loyally even if she's not in her right mind. Guts is not an unfeeling killing machine, and his progress is not linear within the story. A lot of people who haven't read past the eclipse do the story a major disservice. Many are led to believe that the main narrative for the rest of the story is Guts hunting down Griffith, when really it's about the bonds he creates and how he learns to love and trust again. Guts finds friends in people like Serpico, Shirk? I think it's German, I'm not sure, and Farnese, and finds himself to be a mentor for Isidro. I'm sorry guys. The story isn't about revenge and destruction, but rather healing and rebuilding. Even up to recent chapters, many readers find themselves asking, is it even worth it for Guts to still try to kill Griffith? For those up to date, that question is a little more clear, but for those who are still catching up, it seems that Guts and the gang could live in peace and start a new future. Takehiko Inoue's Vagabond, inspired by the legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi, delves into trauma through Musashi's relentless pursuit of strength and meaning. In Vagabond, Miyamoto Musashi's trauma and anger are central to his development and the driving forces behind his actions. Early in the story, Musashi is consumed by anger and the lust to prove himself in battle, which is a behavior passed down from his father. The violence he inflicts on others, including the deadly duels he engages in, are intertwined with his unresolved grief and anger. He often reflects on his past actions and the emotional toll they take, showing a man torn between the need to avenge and the longing for peace. As the story progresses and he meets more people he connects with, he begins to realize that his obsession with revenge and his desire for supremacy only deepen his pain, and he starts questioning the true meaning of strength and whether it can ever provide him with the peace that he seeks. This internal struggle makes Vagabond a poignant exploration of how trauma, when left unaddressed, can distort one's purpose and sense of self. Musashi's childhood friend Madahachi also works as Musashi's opposite throughout the story, and also kinda as a secondary main character. While Musashi seeks self-mastery and spiritual growth, learning to reject superficial honor and material desires, Madahachi remains driven by impulsive desires and a shallow understanding of honor. His inability to confront his emotions, coupled with his tendency to escape responsibility and seek external validation, leads him down a self-destructive path. He has drinking problems, is cowardly, and uses women for his own gain when he can. Madahachi's failure to grow beyond his flaws and his fixation on material goals and fleeting pleasures acts as a cautionary tale for those who are aimless and hedonistic. Musashi's transformation mirrors the emotional journey of many men who, influenced by toxic masculinity, prioritize strength, honor, and combat as symbols of self-worth. As Musashi matures, he starts to see that his obsession with validation and being the best only perpetuates his internal suffering at times. In my opinion, Vagabond presents a compelling argument against the glorification of strength, offering a critique of the toxic ideals that underpin traditional masculinity. Through Musashi's journey, the story asks whether true strength lies in conquering others or in conquering oneself.
You motherfuckers should be happy they canceled Andrew Tate, but I'm still fucking here to tell you you're a fucking loser.
Lately, a lot of male creators on here will tell you that there's a war on masculinity, and I think that's true. However, the war is really based on claiming that any man that doesn't subscribe to their ideologies aren't masculine or real men, especially if they've taken the time to work on themselves emotionally and mentally. These red pill, male-oriented communities have become platforms where masculinity is weaponized, often targeting men's negative emotions and vulnerabilities as tools for manipulation and control. Instead of fostering understanding or healing, the creators of these communities frame such feelings as weaknesses to be exploited, pushing men towards an idealized, hyper-masculine persona that values dominance, emotional attachment, and the rejection of vulnerability. They tell men that the solution to their suffering lies not in confronting and understanding their emotions and how they treat others, but in hardening themselves against the world, becoming ruthless, unemotional, and relentlessly competitive.
That it's okay to play 1 hour video games. The guy who's right behind you, who you are gonna beat, but you slow down to play 1 hour video games, crosses, and he beats you, and then he takes your future wife and impregnates her.
In this framework, the emphasis is placed on suppressing emotions like sadness, fear, or even grief, which are seen as signs of weakness. The idea of healing or seeking help is undermined, and men are encouraged to view emotional support, introspection, and therapy as emasculating and unnecessary. Instead of promoting self-improvement in a balanced and, natural way, these movements encourage men to chase an unattainable standard of alpha dominance, where showing emotional depth or vulnerability is considered a betrayal of masculinity, which isn't even a static thing. I mean, back in Roman and Greek times, high heels were considered masculine, and in early American culture, wearing a wig and makeup was also seen as normal for men. By rejecting healing, the red pill and the manosphere create a cycle where men are trapped in their negative feelings, unable to process or grow from them. This reinforces the very toxic beliefs that harm not only their emotional well-being, but also their relationships and overall mental health. It's a stark contrast to the messages found in stories like Vinland Saga, Berserk, and Vagabond, where characters who embrace their vulnerability and seek redemption can achieve true personal growth. These manga provide a more constructive view of masculinity, showing that strength is not about emotional repression, but about confronting one's flaws and learning from them. In doing so, they offer a much-needed counterpoint to the manosphere's harmful narratives, suggesting that real healing comes not through dominance or detachment, but through emotional honesty and self-awareness. As standalone bodies of work, Vinland Saga, Berserk, and Vagabond all stand as powerful narratives that transcend their genres to delve into profound themes of trauma, toxic masculinity, and the transformative power of letting go. Through rich character development and intricate storytelling, these manga challenge readers to confront difficult truths about human nature and the complexities of personal growth. If you've gotten this far into the video, thank you for watching. Retention really helps push the algorithm, along with commenting and copying the link. So yeah, thank you for all the support. We're almost at 20,000, so hopefully this blasts off, because I know a lot of people who subscribed are probably here because of the Chainsaw Man video, but unfortunately I am not an anime centric YouTube channel, so I try to do more media analysis, voice crack, more media analysis videos. So yeah, if you guys got any suggestions, just let me know. I have a few videos I have in mind for drafts, but yeah, I'll definitely make the list. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.